What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, we're talking transfer tips for Game Week 9. So looking through some of those players that are being brought, sold, people are getting worried about. What is my opinion on what you should do with those players? If you do enjoy the video, give it a like. Hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and let's jump into the first one. Okay, let's talk about Lukaku. A lot of people are getting frustrated with him. He's actually been transferred out by 87,000 people, but there's 85,000 people that have transferred him in. So the net transfers out aren't actually that high, but there's still quite a few of you that are getting rid of him, getting frustrated, want to sell him, want to go to Kane, want to go to Vardy, obviously don't want to go to Cristiano Ronaldo at the moment, maybe even cheaper strikers. And I've got to be honest, I think it's absolutely crazy, right? And it doesn't mean that Lukaku is 100% going to score against Norwich, but this is definitely one of those situations where you have to wipe from your mind exactly what's happened with Lukaku. And if we bring up his recent returns, right, they have not been great. I can probably make this a little bit bigger for you. So he hasn't scored since that Villa game. He's blanked against Spurs away, blanked against Man City at home, blanked against Southampton and against Brentford. Now, I think your level of annoyance probably depends on when you brought him in. Like for me, I've only owned him for Southampton and Brentford. So, okay, it's not great that he hasn't got any returns, but it's Norwich at home next, so I'm not too worried. If you bought him a bit earlier, then yeah, perhaps you are a bit more annoyed. But then what were you expecting against Spurs away and Man City at home? They're not exactly like the best fixtures you can ask for. So I think it's crazy to be selling him right now. Even if he blanks, it's the absolute correct decision to hold him. Yes, Jamie Vardy is looking good. We're going to talk about him in a minute. But the next three fixtures are almost as good as it gets. Again, just to reiterate, I don't think too much has changed. The top 5 teams I want to be facing for my attackers, right, is Burnley, Newcastle, Norwich, Watford and Leeds. They're probably the best 5 fixtures. Obviously, even better if they're at home as well. And Lukaku faces 4 of them in the next 6 game weeks, right? And even better, the next 3 game weeks include 3 of them. So there's not really any reason to sell him unless you're in such a luxury position that you've got no other transfers whatsoever to be making, and you can do a sideways move of Lukaku to Vardy. But in my opinion, you're buying a worse player because of the fixtures, right? It's not to say that Vardy won't keep on scoring, not that he hasn't been great, because he has been. If you got him in early, you're doing really good, I'm sure. You've probably got a really high rank. But to get rid of Lukaku is just absolutely ridiculous before Norwich at home. I'm just going to say it's ridiculous. As simple as that. And he's a great captain this week. Arguably better than Salah. It's close. We'll talk about that in the captaincy video. And he's decent for Newcastle away. We've just seen Kane, right? All the narratives around Kane that he's no good, he's washed up, or whatever people were saying about him. He plays Newcastle away and bam, suddenly you've got points. And Lukaku could definitely do the same. The only worry for me was that he came off on the 76th minute, I think, against Brentford. Tuchel did say he was a bit isolated with Werner, so they brought Havertz on. So the fact that obviously Tuchel was willing to do that is a little bit annoying because you want Lukaku on the pitch for 90 minutes. But in terms of starts, I don't think there's any issues there. I think he'll start the next game. Happy days. So look, maybe this will be famous last words, but I think getting rid of Lukaku, like I said, is absolutely crazy. 87,000 of you have done it already. That will probably grow as we get towards the deadline. Put it this way, I still think if you've got Ronaldo, buying Lukaku is still a better move than buying Vardy. I'm just going to put it out there. I could be wrong. People will disagree. Let me know in the comments below what you think about that. So probably unsurprisingly, right, Jota has been sold by over 100,000 managers net already. Man United away just played against Watford, but actually didn't play, right? Liverpool had a fixture against Watford, but Jota didn't get on the pitch. And that is surprising because usually he either starts or he comes on. That's why people like him. Although I would argue that you either want him to start or be fully benched, right? So you can get one of your bench options off instead. Especially if you've got someone like Livramento who's doing really well right now and got good fixtures. But that's a whole nother conversation. Should you be keeping Jota or should you be selling him? I feel like I've almost got to put myself in the shoes of a Jota owner because I never want him, really, unless one of the front 3 is injured, because then I know he's pretty much nailed to start every single game. And right now, Salah obviously is playing amazing. Mane's doing really well as well. And Firmino, when he's playing, is getting goals too. So there's not really, like, a lot of people were, and I probably have considered it myself, whether Jota is now first choice. I just don't know if we can make that distinction between him and Firmino. And Firmino getting a hat-trick is obviously quite nice for Klopp as well. So he's got a decision to make. Man United away is not a great fixture. I know people are kind of bashing Man United right now, and rightly so, by the way, but this is the type of fixture that Man United will turn up for. Brighton at home is not bad. I expect Liverpool to win that game fairly comfortably, to be honest, as good as Brighton are. But West Ham away, Arsenal at home. I know Arsenal have just conceded 2 goals to Crystal Palace, but I still don't see that fixture run as that great, especially at a time when Firmino, Salah and Mane are all fit. So it really depends who you're going to sell him for. Like, if you're going to sell into a Man City midfielder, okay, Man City have got the fixtures right now, but you're not necessarily buying someone that's guaranteed to start. Maybe you could downgrade him and use the money elsewhere. So, as always with these transfers, it's going to depend on priority of your team. Do you have a different transfer to make? Do you have an injury to deal with or something like that? I don't think that Jota is must sell by any stretch. And if he starts against Brighton, that could be decent. But they do have Champions League games as well. So there is going to be rotation in that front three, apart from probably Salah, because he doesn't get rested as much as anyone else in that team. So I would probably sell him this week, depending on what move you're going to make, right? There's lots of good, like Rafinha's decent buy this week, I would say, and Mbeumo is another good buy as well. So I don't think Jota is going to offer the value over the next kind of 4 fixtures. So I just don't think he's going to get enough minutes. The fixtures aren't great. We know what he can do when he's on the pitch, and I've got no problem if people want to hold him for kind of the Brighton games, maybe even the Arsenal game, to be honest, Southampton and Everton. But I just think if you're someone that's going to get frustrated every time he's benched and every time he doesn't come on, he's not the player for you. Simple as that. Okay, so if you're a Saka owner, especially if you're a recent Saka owner, like if you've got him on the Game Week 7 or 8 wildcard, you're probably a little bit frustrated with what's happened so far. 2 blanks after he played so well against Spurs as well. I'm sure a few people knee-jerk that. Maybe subconsciously I kind of did knee-jerk a little bit on it. I just think the fixtures were quite nice. It just hasn't worked out so far for him. Obviously, he picks up a yellow card last night, goes down to 0 points, and then gets basically injured, right? Probably should have been a red card for MacArthur, and he has to go off at half-time. Now, usually you'd think that injury probably is a dead leg or something like that. It's probably not going to be that bad. There might be some bruising. The problem is, and by the way, I'm not a doctor, so maybe it's much worse than that. I don't know. But the problem is Arsenal played Monday, and now they're playing Friday night. So the turnaround time is about as quick as it's going to get, right? In a normal game week. Obviously, we'll have some turnarounds of like Saturday to Tuesday soon. But Monday finishing and then playing on Friday means there is a chance that he misses out. So whether or not you should sell him depends on what your squad situation is and which other players you own. So for me, right now, I'm very tempted to keep him because I see that Watford home game and it looks pretty nice. And the way that I've kind of built my squad, like if Saka doesn't play, I can just swap him out for Laporte or for Livramento. It's not really that much of an issue. Of course, I'd probably rather have a Man City midfielder, but I don't have the money to go up. So for me, I'll see what happens, see what Arteta says. If he says he's available, I'll probably just play him. If not, I can just bench him for Laporte and then keep him for that kind of Leicester game and Watford at home game. If you're someone that, for example, doesn't have Mbeumo at Brentford, then I think that's quite a good transfer. If you don't have Rafinha, I think that's quite a good transfer as well. They're players I've mentioned already a couple of times on this video. But otherwise, unless you've got the cash to go up to a Man City mid, I don't think you need to rush out to sell him. I don't think you need to rush out to sell him to like an Everton midfielder or Gallagher at Palace or someone like that. If you've got someone good on the bench, you can absolutely bench him. I do think kind of longer term, we've probably got to look at getting rid of him and finding a way to upgrade or change him to someone else, because Liverpool away and Man United away in the space of 3 game weeks is not great, albeit the Newcastle home game is not that bad. So I wouldn't rush out and do anything. Let's wait and see what Arteta says. I will say the numbers are not looking great, right? 0.16 expected goals per 90 and 0.11 expected assists. It's definitely down on last season. Obviously, we are still in the the caveat of it's a small sample size, but it's not looking great. And a lot of Arsenal fans will tell you when he plays on the left, it's not as good as when he plays on the right. I don't suspect that Pepe's going to play like all the games going forward, because they did essentially play with 5 attackers, although Odegaard did play a little bit deeper. So my hope would be that Saka will play and Pepe will be benched most of the time. But even against Watford at home, they might roll out 5 attackers again. We just don't know. So I don't think there's any... I wouldn't buy Saka right now for sure. I don't think there's any harm in keeping it, but there's also no harm in selling him. If you've got a good move you can make, Man City midfielder, Mbeumo or Rafinha, I probably would do that this week if you've got no other pressing issues. I feel like we're going to talk about Jamie Vardy every single week. I mean, for what it's worth, I still don't really have a plan to get him in, which I know is going to frustrate everyone, because as soon as someone does well, I've got to have them in the team. But yeah, 248,000 transfers in, heavily transferred in, obviously scored a lot of points so far. I don't even think he's had a penalty yet either. So let's not forget, even if he goes off the boil a little bit, there's always a chance of getting a penalty, and that's some easy points for Vardy as well. Still only 17.7% owned as well. The numbers are looking good. 0.61 expected goals per 90. Again, it's higher than last season, so that might go down a little bit. But ultimately, he's playing well. He's going to play 90 minutes most games. He's a guaranteed starter as well. And the fixtures look pretty good. If you look at the next 5, believe, right, even forgetting about Southampton for a second, they've got Watford, Leeds and Brentford. Pretty good fixtures. I know Brentford have done well, but there's the opportunity there for Vardy to get some points. I think if Brentford... The thing with Chelsea is they played quite defensively, probably because of what happened to Liverpool. I don't think Leicester necessarily got the capabilities of defending like Chelsea do, so they're probably going to have to attack more, and that's obviously going to suit someone like Vardy. And then they get to play Leeds away as well in Game Week 11, which is another good fixture. So Arsenal at home probably doesn't look that bad in the grand scheme of things. So again, like I feel like I'm a broken record on Vardy. I would not try and put anyone off buying him. If you ask me whether I want right now Vardy or Lukaku for the next 3 fixtures, I want Lukaku, right? And it's not like Vardy is cheap. He's 10.6 million for good reason for what we're seeing right now. And I just don't see where I'm going to captain him over those fixtures, right? If we look at Game Week, look at those fixtures, right? We say Game Week 9, 11 and 13 is probably when you consider captaining him. So if I bring up the fixtures this week, look, I'm captaining Lukaku. There's no even doubt in my mind. Game Week 11, possibly you could captain Vardy against Leeds away. But in that same week, Lukaku has Burnley at home. As I was saying earlier, Burnley's a pretty good fixture to have. So again, I just don't know if I would want Vardy instead. And if we go to Game Week 13, when he's got Watford at home, which, by the way, is a really, really nice fixture. You've got Harry Kane against Burnley away that some people might have. Liverpool got Southampton. So are you going to captain Jamie Vardy against Watford at home instead of Salah versus Southampton at home? You could make up some ground, but you will be betting massively against the crowd. And sometimes, like I always say this, right, but sometimes it just falls that the player just doesn't feel right for the team, right? As well as he's doing, it's just hard to fit him in when you've got other captain opportunities. And captaincy has to be a big part of our decisions. So, again, don't think it's a bad thing if you bring Vardy in. If you want to restructure your squad to get Salah and Lukaku and Vardy, or just get rid of Lukaku, that's completely up to you. But for me, I just wouldn't be... Like, if you've got Ronaldo and Lukaku, if you're one of those that went 3 premiums, then Ronaldo to Vardy looks like a really good move because you've still got Lukaku as well. That I really like. You've got the structure in place. But if you're someone that has to rip your team apart to get Vardy in, or you have to sell Lukaku, or you have to sell Salah, or even maybe Harry Kane at the moment, I just don't think I would do it. So 248,000 managers, you're not wrong. But for a lot of people's teams, I still just don't think he fits. But Ronaldo to Vardy, I like that move if you've already got Lukaku. I feel for Armstrong owners, I really do, right? I thought he was a good pick. He's literally played and started every single game this season so far. And with Che Adams out, I just thought, why would he not start? And then he doesn't even come on. So for some of you, you had Livramento on the bench. You're probably quite happy. But obviously, Broha started, right? Chelsea loanee. Hopefully, I've got the pronunciation right, by the way. The interesting thing is, Hasenhüttl literally said before the game, like I think a couple of days earlier in the press conference, I believe it was, that Broha is not ready to start yet. So he said that. You think, right, Armstrong's going to play, and then he ends up getting benched. So right now going forward, I just don't know what the formation and what the not necessarily what the formation is going to be, but what the personnel is going to be for Southampton. My advice is, again, if you've got a decent bench, like a lot of people will have right now, especially if you wildcarded recently, I think the fixtures are good enough that you can keep him for one more, just to kind of reassess and see what's happening. Obviously, if he misses out another game, then he's absolutely got to go. But if he plays, Burnley at home is pretty decent. And if he plays the next one, Watford away is pretty decent as well. And I think a lot of people that got him maybe got the cash to go to Tony, so you could make that move this week, but I don't think there's any harm in giving him one more week. What this tells me is, though, that Hasenhüttl is not afraid to bench him. And obviously, I mean, we are getting to the point now where I'm not saying that Southampton's squad is massive or anything like Chelsea or Man City, but there are kind of very few players that are absolutely completely nailed to play every single week for 90 minutes, right? That is few and far between. Even Salah, who is nailed, will at some point get a rest, right? We know that. So maybe we need to have a new phrase instead of nailed. I don't know. But obviously this shows that Hasenhüttl is happy to bench him. So I think owners are probably not going to own him for too long because of that benching. But if you've got a decent squad, then I think you can keep him for Game Week 9. And that is probably what I would do. I know it's frustrating right now. He's missed out. You probably really want to rage sell him, which is fair enough, especially if you've got the money for Tony or someone like that. But I think you could just hold him for Burnley at home, hope that he starts. If he doesn't, hope that he doesn't come on, and just reassess from there. But the fixtures are so good, I'll be tempted to give him one more chance. There you go. What do you think about these players? Are you buying them? Are you selling them? If you had to buy one of Lukaku or Vardy right now, which one would you buy? And I suspect a lot of you will say Vardy, so it'll be interesting to see what Lukaku does. But I mean, it is Norwich at home. Surely that's got to be enough. I'm going to be saying that all week. It's Norwich at home. It's Norwich at home. It's Norwich at home. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Please do give it a like if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you are new around here. I'll be back tomorrow with team selection. Until then, I'll see you soon.